2 decades after the US-led invasion, Iraq remains plagued by a crisis no less dangerous than terrorism: corruption. Prime Minister Mohammed al-Sudani calls it the nation's biggest threat, and with over $250 billion stolen since 2003, it's clear why. Each year, billions meant for electricity, healthcare, and clean water vanish, leaving Iraqis with failing infrastructure, expired medicines, and one of the world's lowest life expectancies. Frustrated and disillusioned, many are fleeing abroad in search of a better future. At the core of this decay is the Muhassasa, Iraq's post-invasion power-sharing system, designed to unite Iraq's different ethno-sectarian groups, but instead hijacked by the ruling elite to carve up wealth and entrench their grip on power. In this video, we'll uncover how Iraq's leaders looted the state, turning its vast oil riches into personal fortunes while leaving ordinary citizens to pay the price. The fall of Saddam Hussein created chaos, allowing Iraq's elite to hijack the state. Power was meant to be shared among Iraq's Shia, Sunni, and Kurdish communities, with leadership roles divided along sectarian lines. But rather than fostering representation, this system became a means for political factions to carve up the state for their own interests. One of the most effective tools for entrenching corruption has been the unchecked expansion of Iraq's public payroll. Since 2005, election-winning parties have appointed ministers who control ministry budgets and payrolls, turning state institutions into patronage networks. Jobs are handed out based on party loyalty or bribes, rather than merit. In 2013, economist Frank Gunter estimated that 10 to 25% of Iraq's public employees were ghost workers, names on the payroll that existed solely to funnel salaries into officials' pockets. By 2020, the government payroll had swelled to 4.5 million, with at least 300,000 ghost workers, according to Finance Minister Ali Alawi. Instead of serving the public, Iraq's bloated bureaucracy has become a money-printing machine for the ruling elite. Another method of corruption in Iraq has been contract fraud and the special grades system. In the 4 weeks following the US-led invasion in 2003, over 41,000 state employees were dismissed. This purge stripped Iraq of vital institutional knowledge and paved the way for the politicization of the civil service. Nouri al-Maliki, Iraq's first post-Saddam prime minister, revived a 1966 law that legalized special grades, short-term senior appointments, allowing him to install higher-paid loyalists across ministries. By filling the civil service with loyalists, Maliki centralized power, bypassing Iraq's fragmented cabinet and strengthening the elite's grip on the bureaucracy. But this control also entrenched widespread corruption. Contract fraud lies at the core of this corruption, funding political parties and reinforcing elite control, yet it remains largely understudied. Little is reported on the role of senior civil servants in the special grades scheme, particularly those under temporary contracts or authorization-based roles. Originally intended to reward distinguished officials with higher salaries, the special grades system was repurposed into a patronage network. Of the 5,000 officials holding these positions, including ambassadors and senior military officers, nearly 1,000 served as political party proxies. These director generals, deputy ministers, and state enterprise heads secured inflated salaries while diverting state funds through contracts to political parties, transforming Iraq's bureaucracy into a cash pipeline for the elite. Following a close election in 2010, Maliki was forced to sign the Erbil Agreement, which pluralized the special grades system, allowing other parties access to these appointments. In practice, this did not curb patronage. It merely extended corruption by allowing rival parties to install their own loyalists. By the 2014 elections, these appointments had become a crucial aspect of government formation, with parties strategically prioritizing either ministerial positions or key civil service roles depending on their interests. Using intermediaries, the elite inflated costs, eliminated competition, manipulated hiring, extorted businesses, blackmailed rivals, extracted kickbacks, and embezzled billions annually. Whether in healthcare, education, finance, or construction, Iraq's political elite exploited government contracts to extract wealth. Iraq's judiciary and legislature, once designed to serve the public, have been hijacked to safeguard elite interests, with the judiciary increasingly centralized and politicized. In 2003, the Coalition Provisional Authority issued Order No. 35, creating a council of judges and granting its head unprecedented authority over judicial appointments. This led to the emergence of a judicial oligarchy, consolidating power within a small elite. Faik Zaidan, the current president of the Supreme Judicial Council, holds immense influence, controlling key judicial appointments and accountability mechanisms. His increasing involvement in high-level political and financial discussions alongside the president has blurred the line between judicial and executive authority. Rather than ensuring politicians adhere to the Constitution, Zaidan has been accused of shielding elites from corruption scandals, further undermining judicial independence. Additionally, Iraq's Council of Representatives, the country's parliament, was meant to enact laws, oversee the executive, and represent the people. Instead, it has become a tool for elite corruption. The Finance Committee, one of the most powerful parliamentary bodies, is responsible for reviewing and amending the national budget. Control over this committee is highly contested, as it allows political factions to manipulate state funds. In 2023, MP Sajjad Salim, a vocal critic of elite corruption, exposed secret government allocations to the Popular Mobilization Front, PMF, an Iranian-backed militia. Shortly after, political elites orchestrated his removal from the committee, restricting his access to financial data. The Integrity Committee, tasked with overseeing anti-corruption laws, has also been weaponized. Instead of holding officials accountable, corruption investigations are often used to blackmail or eliminate political rivals. In 2019, MP Ali Al-Sadri resigned as the committee's chairman, stating, "I relinquish this position due to political pressure and the complicity of most blocs in financial and administrative corruption." Iraq's judicial and legislative institutions, once meant to uphold democracy and accountability, have instead been captured by the elite, serving their financial and political interests at the expense of the people. Iraq's elite has hijacked state institutions to suppress dissent and shield itself from accountability. Control over the bureaucracy, judiciary, and security forces have turned institutions meant to uphold democracy into instruments of coercion, silencing activists, censoring the media, and policing political participation. In theory, civil society has constitutional mechanisms to challenge power, including elections, independent journalism, and protests. But in practice, these channels have been systematically dismantled. Rather than ensuring accountability, state institutions now serve to protect the ruling elite, suppressing public mobilization and insulating those in power from scrutiny. Iraq's judiciary plays a central role in this repression, enforcing outdated penal codes from the Saddam era to silence dissent. Laws such as Article 226, which criminalizes insulting the government, whilst Article 403 allows authorities to imprison individuals for up to 2 years for distributing material deemed indecent, an ambiguous term that enables arbitrary arrests. These laws have been repeatedly used to suppress free speech, with courts in Kark and Maysan issuing arrest warrants in 2023 against individuals who criticized the government online. The third investigative court in Kark, now increasingly focused on media cases, has become a central mechanism for prosecuting journalists and activists. Under this legal framework, public figures who expose corruption or challenge authority have been directly targeted. TV host Ahmed Mullah Talal was arrested after airing a satirical interview on military corruption, while journalists Swadad Al-Salihi, Muntadar Nasser, Mohammed Nana, and Laith Shubar faced warrants for criticizing the government. In June 2022, Sarmad Al-Tayyeh was detained after publicly criticizing Supreme Judicial Council President Faik Zaidan and Iranian Commander Qasem Soleimani on live television. The repression extends beyond individuals. In 2019, the government shut down 19 media outlets, most of which had been covering the Tishreen protests. Justifications ranged from offending national and religious symbols to failing to abide by journalistic standards. Vague accusations used to justify silencing critical reporting. Rather than upholding justice, Iraq's judiciary now serves to shield the ruling elite, punishing those who challenge authority while ensuring impunity for those in power. Beyond legal and regulatory pressure, Iraq's security services have also become tools of repression. The Iraqi National Intelligence Service has been instrumental in intimidating journalists and activists. In 2022, Ali al-Dabhawi, a journalist with al-Baghdadiya TV, was detained and interrogated for 4 hours without explanation before being warned to stop criticizing politicians. Beyond direct coercion, Iraq's elite controls a vast network of media outlets, think tanks, and research centers designed to discredit protests and suppress dissent. Any popular movement challenging the status quo is quickly dismissed as a foreign-backed conspiracy. Following the 2019 Tishreen uprising, protesters were accused of being agents of foreign influence. The Al-Hadaf Center for Studies, linked to Hezbollah, spread propaganda framing civil society as an extension of US influence in Iraq. Similarly, the Badr organization, an Iranian-backed political party and militia, used its Badr Center for Strategic Studies and Al-Ghadir TV to push the same narrative, portraying dissent as a Western plot to destabilize Iraq. This narrative warfare is not just about public perception, it is used to justify violence against activists. In 2020, Reham Yaqub, a prominent activist, was assassinated in Basra after state-aligned media falsely labeled her a US operative. By constructing these narratives, the elite creates an environment where dissenters can be eliminated with impunity, further shrinking the space for opposition. Laws meant to safeguard free speech now suppress dissent. Security forces intimidate rather than protect, and the media has been weaponized to silence critics and justify violence. Instead of upholding democracy, these institutions have been reshaped to sustain elite rule at the public's expense. The US-led invasion gave Iraq the appearance of a democracy, elections, political parties, and civil liberties, but not true accountability. The sectarian power-sharing system introduced in 2003 became a vehicle for elite corruption, eroding trust in government and hollowing out state institutions. But Iraq's population is young, restless, and running out of patience. The 2019 protests showed that anger is boiling beneath the surface, and as corruption deepens, another uprising may be inevitable. Could Iraq's youth be the force that finally sweeps away the old elite, or will the elite continue to loot the state? Let us know in the comments below. I have been your host Albert. If you have enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. Until next time.